All right, we're on. Okay. So thanks for the introduction. My name is Michael Jones. I've been General Manager of 2CA and 2CC here in Canberra for the last 12 years. And before that, worked in radio stations across Australia, as far as Perth, Newcastle, in New Zealand, in Queenstown, and in southwest Ontario in Canada, where we started a brand new radio station from the ground up. So a lot of fun. It's a great industry to work in. It's taken me a lot of places and given me a good life so far. So today what we're going to talk about is how radio can work for your business and turn your business into a household name. We're going to look at where radio fits into the current advertising marketplace. There are so many options out there, but what's radio's place? How do we go about making a radio commercial? It's probably one of the most common questions that we get in the radio business. People think it's a complicated and expensive sort of affair. So we'll talk about how we actually do that. And how does radio get results? How do you schedule a radio campaign for your business that's going to get the results that you want? So what are you looking for in your radio campaign? Now, does the clicker works? Hey, how about that? Just a bit of background on radio. We're coming up to 100 years of radio in the world. Marconi invented the radio back in the late 1890s. It was used on ships to send Morse code. Famously, the Titanic used radio to send out the first SOS. It was a bit of a failure though. But that's how far back radio goes. It's had a very important place in society since those days and continues to do so. Australia's first commercial radio station, or first radio station, as we know them today, started in 1925. That was 2UE in Sydney. And Canberra's first radio station started 6 years later in 1931. That was 2CA. Today there are 300 commercial radio stations around Australia, broadcasting various music and talk formats. And 95% of all Australians listen to the radio every week. And that's more listeners than the radio has ever had in the last 100 years. So it's certainly a dynamic and growing medium. Other mediums have had challenges. Radio has had its challenges over the years. When television was introduced in the 1950s, radio had to change the way it worked. It had to change from being a radio serial type medium to being an entertainment-based medium with music and talkback and opinion and those sorts of things. When MTV started, the Buggles came out with a song called "Video Killed the Radio Star." And that's how they launched MTV, which made us all feel very, very scared. But it didn't happen. Radio continues to evolve and grow. Let's look at why radio is such a strong medium today. It's a brand building medium, but it also can deliver a call to action campaign. Now, these are two types of radio campaigns that we'll talk more about throughout the morning, but it's two aspects: building your brand, top of mind awareness, or driving short-term sales. So a branding campaign might be, you might be familiar with the way banks advertise. They don't advertise specials very often. It's building their image. Whereas a retailer might have a special discount sale on this weekend. It's act now. So there's those two types of campaigns. It's a high reach medium. That means it's a mass market medium, like television and newspaper, the three mass media that we all are very familiar with: radio, television, and newspaper. But radio is also a frequency medium, and that means that when you place a commercial on a radio station, it can be heard by thousands of people at the same time, multiple times over a short period of space. And that's the real driver of a successful radio campaign, is the frequency. The number of times the same people hear the message over and over again over a set period of time. It's expensive to do that with television, and it's very difficult to do that with newspaper. unless you're taking an ad on every page. So that's one of the key strengths of radio, is that frequency, and that's what actually delivers results. Just looking, I don't know if you can see those numbers, but this is the weekly listenership of radio across Australia. Well, Australia's 5 capitals: Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth, and it's reflected across most other regional centres as well, like Canberra, Newcastle, the Gold Coast, etc. But you can see that in each age group, the reach of radio, and we're looking at this column here, Hume percentage is the percentage of people who tune in each week over a 7-day period. Hume means cumulative audience, and that's a key figure. So you can see people 10 plus, radio reaches 76.3% each week. 10 to 17-year-olds, 85%. And now there's a lot of talk about how young people don't listen to the radio anymore. The research says otherwise. For sure, young people are looking at other mediums, like they'll use their Spotify for music and so forth, but that's replaced listening to their own music rather than listening to radio itself. And as we go through the age groups, you can see it's strong across the board. So radio is very, still a mass media that reaches just about everybody. Here's a graph that shows how people listen to audio these days, and we just talked about Spotify and how some people have said that Spotify is a new threat to radio listening. It hasn't proven to be so. Live Australian radio accounts for 61% of all audio consumption. When we look at online or music streaming services, the green one there, that's 15%. That has grown at the expense of owned music, the 7% here. Remember we used to go, at the end of each week when we've got our pocket money or our pay, we'd go around to the record store and we go and buy the latest records, the top 40, look at the charts and see which songs we wanted to buy. We take them home and listen to them on our stereo systems or in our car cassettes. People don't tend to do that now. They have replaced that audio listening with streaming services. So it hasn't taken away from radio, it's taken away from record stores, which are few and far between these days. Can I just grab my glass of water? Oh, sorry. Thanks a lot. When we look at where people listen to the radio, the car is one of the most popular places. 84% of all audio listening in the car is to the radio, as opposed to your Apple CarPlay or your CDs or does anyone still have a cassette player in their car? I haven't seen one of those for years. But there are still CD players in cars and so forth. But 84% is the radio. And that's because radio gives you more than just the music or the talk. It gives you the weather, the news reports, the traffic updates, and company as well. When you're driving in your car, the radio announcers keep you company. 46.4%, the highest percentage of all radio listening, still happens in the home. So when people wake up in the morning, it's their clock radio or their app wakes them up in the morning. They'll have it on in the kitchen or in the bathroom. And of course, while they're driving to work, the car takes over. 33.2% of all radio listening happens in the car. 18.3% in the workplace. It's only stingy workplaces that don't let you have the radio on these days, but I think most places do. Certainly a lot of tradies listen on job sites. And 2.1% other. So when you're out having a picnic or you've gone to the coast and you're at the beach, you might have a portable radio with you. And that's another one of the strengths of radio. It's a very portable medium. I mentioned earlier that radio's had to evolve over the years. Firstly with the introduction of television and MTV, then we had iPods, they were a thing, weren't they? Were iPods a thing? They're not anymore. Yeah, iPods were a thing. I remember people were thinking in the radio industry, oh, this is the end of us, iPods are here. Before that it was Walkmans, CD players in the car. All these things have been put up as threats to radio. Radio has evolved and adapted, and we continue to do so. We've got AM and FM radio. We've now also got digital audio broadcasting, which is a better quality, sound quality again than FM, which we get in Canberra. We're very lucky to have that in Canberra. 70% of all new cars are equipped standard with DAB radios. So it's still very much a part of the car culture. Radio is getting into podcasts. Radio can be heard not just on your AM, FM or DAB radio, it can be heard on the smart speakers. If you've got an Alexa or a Google smart speaker, you can just say, play 2CA, for example, and it'll play the radio station for you. You can stream us online on your smartphones. Lots and lots of different ways to listen to radio. So we're keeping up with the technology, and that's, again, part of our medium strength. Let's turn to creative now that we've talked about radio still exists. But the creative aspect, how do we create a radio commercial that people are going to remember and a radio commercial that's going to stand out? And I've got to, I think, exit that. No. Yes. So here's one that I think you'll all remember. Go. Oh, sabotage. Okay, everybody knows that? Yeah. Everybody's familiar? Hands up if you have not heard that before. Could I have hands? Really?
Wow.
Really? Okay, all right, you've got an excuse. All right. Every person that was born and grew up in Australia, for some reason, knows that jingle. But it's been decades since that has been played on the radio. That was recorded in 1930 in the studios of 2UE, I believe it was, or either 2UE or 2SM in Sydney. It was a radio production, and it's part of our culture now, even though it hasn't been played on the radio or on television in donkey's years, but everybody knows it. And why is that? It's because of the simplicity of that jingle. If you think about kids and how they learn nursery rhymes so easily, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, those sorts of things. The ABC song, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Kids pick up these things very, very easily because of the simplicity of the tunes and the lyrics. And that's why that song and that jingle is so effective. Also the simple way it's sung by the little girl. It's very, very memorable. And you can incorporate those qualities into your own radio commercials, and it doesn't cost a lot of money to do it, and it's quite simple to do. We'll have a look at that. There's a sheet that I gave you in the bags. It's called Creative Brief. Because what we'll do is, if you like, we can write you a radio commercial at some point after this using notes that you might take down here. You can either fill it out while we're here and leave it here, or you can fill it out later on and send it into us. But we'll write you a radio commercial for free of charge to show you what sort of thing that we can do for your business and how it works. So just take some notes as we go along. But the first thing with creating a radio commercial is to know what your purpose is. Is it to move stock? Is it to generate more inquiry? Is it to promote a special event? You might be having your third birthday sale or a moving sale. You might have just taken over the business and such a change of management type of event. It might be to increase your cash flow, improve your market profile. People might not have heard of you. Or it might be to build brand awareness. It could be to counter competitor activity. Radio is extremely good at that. If your competitor starts putting out a sale or cutting price, you can combat that very, very quickly using radio because it's so fast to make an ad and get it on. We can do it in a day. So you've got to know what your purpose is. If it's to move stock, generate inquiries quickly, that sort of thing, you're talking about a call to action campaign. We talked about this earlier on, call to action campaign. If it's to improve your brand awareness, get people to think about you more easily, then it's a branding campaign. And there are two different types of campaigns, which we'll get to shortly. I'm not in there, am I? The other thing to think about, apart from your purpose, is what's in it for the customer. A lot of radio commercials that we see come through written by our clients forget to think about their business from the customer's perspective, and becomes all about the business, or becomes all about technical aspects of a product, not about the end result for the customer. If you're selling a drill, is it the wattage and the speed that it rotates at, and those sort of things? Is that what the customer really wants when they go to buy a drill? No, they want something that's going to put a hole in a wall or a hole in a piece of timber. It's the end result. How do they feel when they've achieved that end result? Is there an emotional connection that you can create between your business or your product or your brand and the customer? What's the emotional connection? A famous quote: people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that's something that we strive to achieve in radio commercials. You can have a very simple radio commercial. This is who we are, this is where we are, this is what we do, come and see us. But a more effective way to do it is to tap into the emotions. There are a number of emotional motivators. Here are just some of them. There are many more, but here are some of them. Instant gratification is a good one, especially if you're having a sale or you've got a product that's in high demand but short supply, those sorts of things. People want it now. The latest iPhones are a great example of people wanting instant gratification. They'll line up around the block for the launch of the new iPhone. They want it today, they want it now. So in your ad, the offer ends soon, it's limited. Hurry before stock runs out. Free for a limited time, those sorts of things. Happiness is a great emotional motivator for people. Does your business make people feel happy? Maybe a beauty salon, might be a hairdresser. When they walk out of your business, they feel good about themselves, they feel happy. Can you tap into that emotion in your radio commercial? Might be a funny ad that makes people laugh. So it connects that joy, the laughter, positive feelings with your business. Could be fear of missing out. Again, limited stock, limited supply, hurry or you will miss out. Or it could be the consequences of inaction. If you don't do this, something will happen. One category that springs to mind that uses fear a lot, security companies. If you don't have a good security company, the burglars are going to break into your house and steal all the Christmas presents. The kids will be disappointed on Christmas morning. There are others. Trust is a really strong driver, especially now with the social media scene. I know when you're scrolling through Facebook and an ad comes up, you might notice an ad. I don't think most people do notice the ads on Facebook, but if you do, and if there's a product there that looks interesting to you and you'd like, you're always suspicious that if you click on that, they're going to steal your money. social media is just so low on trust level. Radio is at the top in trust level, above television, above newspaper, above social media. So you can use that to your benefit. You can use testimonials. So customers that have used your business that are happy, they can read your radio ad for you. Say, I used XYZ business and I got a great result. You can push the fact that you're established, you've been in business for a long time, and that gives people a sense of security. You're experienced. You can have the owner voice the ad so they know who they're dealing with, and that's I think a really effective way for a business to structure their ad. I know Gail Freeman does that. I'm Gail Freeman. Talk to me about your superannuation, your retirement planning. It's trust. It establishes trust. Another emotional driver, pride, keeping up with the neighbours. If your neighbour's lawn is beautiful and your lawn is crappy, that might be an emotional driver for you, that you feel a bit bad that you're not keeping up with the neighbours. They might have a better car than you, a better boat than you, better this than you, better that than you. Some people are driven by those things. It could be a look at me thing, an attention grabber. You've got a new watch, new suit, new haircut even. Or it could be social conscience that drives people. Doing the right thing, helping others, acting in the greater good. An example might be getting solar panels on your roof, buying an electric car, those sorts of things. You're doing something for the greater good, not just for yourself. So lots of emotional drives. If you can find 1, 2, 3, or even more of those emotional connectors for your business, then you're on the way to making a good ad. If you can think of any, drop them down on that sheet that I've given to you. The other thing you've got to make sure you do with a radio commercial is ensure that it cuts through. Okay. On our radio stations, you get maybe 6 commercials in an ad break. You've got to make sure that your ad stands out from the others. And you can do that by using a number of techniques. You can have a jingle which cuts through, like the aeroplane jelly one, make one for your business. You could have just a musical signature. If you think of Toyota, they've got their little Oh What a Feeling Toyota musical signature. ABC has their signature, dun dun dun, those sorts of things. Instantly recognisable features that will connect your ad to your business in the listener's mind. You could use voice to make your ad stand out. Make an authoritative voice. We have ways of making you come to our business. Make it a distinctive voice. Remember the where do you get it? Where do you get it? That's not a great voice, but it's very distinctive, and people remember it. It cuts through. I think Kingsley's Chicken has a voice like that on there. Don't forget the gravy or something like that. Don't forget the chips. Or you could use a celebrity. Use a footballer or a person with some sort of celebrity in the marketplace. There's an air conditioning company, Fujitsu, uses ex-cricket captains. Those sorts of things make things cut through. Or, as I said before, it could be your own voice. It could be you voicing your ad, which will make it cut through. And your positioning statement, make it memorable. Make it what you're about. So it's like almost like your elevator pitch. Sum up in just a couple of words what your business is about. And that where do you get it is a perfect one.
You breed 'em, I kill 'em. Hi, I'm John Holden, Three Rivers Pest Control. From now to the end of September, if you book a full pest...
Oh, sorry. He was supposed to play.
You breed 'em, I kill 'em. Hi, I'm John Holden, Three Rivers Pest Control. From now to the end of September, if you book a full pest control or termite inspection to your property, we will rodent bait your roof free. That's right, free. This is a saving of $185, and it's the best offer around. We are privately owned, long time established, and second to none. We offer prompt, reliable service, so call our friendly staff who will help you with your inquiry. Three Rivers Pest Control. Remember, you breed 'em, I kill 'em. 6299 665 or Google Three Rivers Pest Control, Queanbeyan or Canberra. You breed 'em,
You breed 'em, I kill 'em. How many of what we just talked about, how many elements did you just hear in that ad of what we just talked about? Lots. Okay, you breed them, I kill them. That's memorable, right? It sticks out and it sums up what the business is about. It's a great positioning statement. It's the owner voicing the ad. He's got a distinctive voice, you can't miss it. Builds trust. He talks about how he's been established for 30 years, builds trust. And then he's got, some call to action stuff in there as well about, you'll save 30% if you act now. It's all in there. He's got it all going on. The only thing he doesn't have is a jingle. We'll have to talk to him about that. But there's an example of an ad that stands out. And he's been doing that, running that same line and that same style of ad for years and years.
Edgewood's leads the way in cutting-edge luxury and versatile flooring, all with an affordable price tag. From first consult through to that new floor feeling, you deal with them direct. Carpets, timber, vinyl, laminate and more. Edgewood's, 80 Newcastle Street, Fishwick or online. edgewoods.com.au. Edgewood's flooring, get that new feeling.
Okay, some emotional connection in there too. Get that new floor feeling. And the little audio signature there, the funny man going, oh, when he's got that new floor feeling. It's got the jingle in there, which incorporates the positioning statement, and it's memorable. You'll instantly know that ad when it plays on the radio. And here's another one that you probably all know, unless you're born on a different continent. Yes.
Get down to Sears, boys, quick. With Canberra's biggest workwear range, I'll get you looking slick. When Pat asks his question,
how do you know?
You know the answer, Sears, it's the only place to go. With clothes, boots, hats, and heaps of safety gear. Corporate clothes and more you'll find at Sears Workwear. So get down to Sears, boys, you better make it quick. Sears Workwear, Barrier Street, Fishwick.
Now you know.
Okay, now you know. Another positioning statement. A jingle that's, it plays on that whole instantly recognisable tune element that we talked about before. It's almost like a nursery rhyme. Quick, go to Shears, but it's getting to Sears. And of course, now you know. Now that jingle is a fully sung jingle. It's sung the full 30 seconds. The previous one that we listened to was what we call a top and tail. The beginning was sung, the end was sung, and in the middle was just a music bed with voiceover across the top. Just to give you an idea of pricing, a fully sung jingle like that Sears one, probably in the range of $3,000 to $6,000 to create that jingle. The top and tail jingle for Edgewood's flooring that we listened to, about $700. So a big difference. I personally don't think that you need a fully sung jingle. I think that the flexibility that the top and tail gives you, and for the price difference, is far better value. You can use that top and tail jingle as a branding anchor, if you will, so that every time your ad is played, people recognise it. But you can change the content of the ad anytime you like. So your offers can change, your positioning can change all the time. So that's just a bit of advice there. If you're looking at jingles, have a look at the top and tail. And finally,
is your pool like something out of a horror movie? Are the kids afraid of the creature that lurks beneath your swampy water? You need to call Oliver from Pool Smart True Blue. Mobile pool maintenance and home delivery of all pool chemicals, cleaners and equipment you need to keep your pool sparkling. Call Pool Smart True Blue on 0421 101 842 or find them on Facebook. Pool Smart True Blue, Canberra's premier swimming pool experts.
So we started out with a swamp and mosquitoes buzzing around, and we're building up the image that, the pool is green and slimy and horrible, and the kids are disappointed with Dad because they can't get out there and jump in the pool. But as soon as he calls Oliver at Pool Smart True Blue, the music changes, it's all nice and happy, they're splashing and laughing kids, and everything's fixed. So emotional connectors in that commercial. Really simple and easy to do if you just have to think about it. And more effective than just saying, a basic ad that says, do you need to get your pool cleaned? Come and talk to me, da 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 da. That can work, but it won't have that same long-term emotional bond with the customer. I've got to go back to slideshow. Right. Branding or call to action. How do you know what to do? Which one is for you? So branding is what we call the low frequency column, and call to action will be the high frequency column. Okay, so do we have a few ads, but over a long period of time, but not a lot of ads every week or every month? Or do we do a lot of ads over a short period of time? So let's consider a few things. Is your campaign established or is it new? If you've been advertising for a while and it's established, you probably don't need to have that higher frequency type campaign, just something longer term. If it's a new campaign, you're getting new information out to the market, you want to have higher frequency. Is the target audience made up of fast adapters or slow adapters? Are they tech savvy? Do they pick up on new things quickly? If so, you don't need to run that many ads because they'll only have to hear it once or twice and they'll make inquiries. If they're slow adapters or your product is a slow adapter type product, you probably need to go with a higher frequency to convince people. Is the interest in your category high or low? Do you have a new piece of tech that's come out that people are interested in? If the interest is high, again, you don't have to run that many ads for people to be convinced to try it out. Is the message simple or complex? Oh, here's something else that we forgot to talk about. Simple message versus a complex message. That's not me, is it? No, my phone's over there. And I wouldn't have turned mine off that quickly. Okay, simple message or a complex message. Less is more. So many times we get businesses wanting to put everything about their business into a radio commercial. And usually we're dealing with 30-second radio commercials. We can do 45s or 60s or 2 minutes, but usually it's a 30-second radio ad. And jam as much information in as possible. It's important that you keep your message simple so that it doesn't get lost in the mind of the listener. And one of the things on the sheet that I've given you is what's the one big idea? What's the one thing you really want to get across to the potential customer? Focus on that and make the ad about that rather than trying to jam every single aspect of your business into that commercial. But if your message is simple, you can probably get away with a lower frequency campaign. If it's complex, you might need more ads so that they pick up on all the different aspects. Are you using any other media? Or is it just the radio, or just the newspaper, or just the TV? Is the length of your campaign going to be long or short? Is the brand life stage established or new? Is the product established or new? Do you have a large or small share, market share? If you're the market leader, you probably can get away with fewer ads, but just keep it over a longer period of time. If you're a challenger in the market, you're trying to take market share away from a market leader, you're going to want to have a higher frequency campaign to convince people to change now. Is the purchase cycle long or short? If you're selling hamburgers and it's lunchtime, your purchase cycle is short. People are going to make that buying decision very, very quickly in a matter of minutes, perhaps. They might just drive past your hamburger shop, smell the aromas coming from, I'm thinking of the chicken shop, aren't I? And make that decision there and then. It can be an impulse buy. If you are selling houses, the product cycle or the purchase cycle can be years. So you want to have a longer term campaign if you've got a long purchase cycle, because you want to be there when they do finally make that decision to act. And we're going to talk a bit more about that, about how branding over a long term actually works. And as your competitive set, is the competitive activity in your in your category quiet or busy? Are your competitors very active, or are they pretty quiet? So some of the things to consider in the style of campaign that you run, and how many ads you run and over what period. Some other things you consider: select stations which target audiences effectively. Who's your target audience? Who are your customers? What are their characteristics? Are they men? Are they women? Do they fit a certain age group? Do they own their houses? Do they have mortgages? Do they have kids? What are the characteristics of your audience? Don't get too hung up on that though, because what a lot of businesses do is they way over segment their market and narrow it down until there's nobody in the market category. We see that a lot. You've got to remember, when you're using mass media, you're reaching almost all sorts of different people. Radio is excellent in that you can segment age groups very, very effectively. If you're selling surfboards or hot tuna clothes or that sort of stuff, you're not going to use 2CA or 2CC. But if you're a financial planner looking for people to invest money in whatever people invest money in, I don't know what they invest money in, I wish I had some. You might use 2CA or 2CC because it does get to that older, more established type of customer. But don't go overboard with market segmentation. We'll end up like the toothpaste aisle. Whitening or plaque control, there's so many different types of toothpaste, I don't even know which one to buy. It's too confusing. You can select a number of different stations to reach your audience. You can select the stations which are most cost effective for you. So the different pricing. And you can select stations that align with program content and your product. So for example, if you are selling financial products, you might find a radio station that has a finance program and advertise there. One of the main things you can do is dominate whatever you do. In any advertising, whether it's print or electronic media, dominate what you do. Own the space that you are in. It doesn't mean you have to be like Harvey Norman and have an ad in every break and 6 full pages in the paper each week. But that's what domination is. They dominate. If you can't afford to do that, you dominate a segment. You dominate a day of the week, or you dominate a session of the day. You might be very heavy on Mondays, but don't sprinkle your ads too much. Running, say, 1 ad a day for 20 days will be less effective than running 20 ads a week, 20 ads over 5 days. So try to dominate whatever you do. Dominate a session. You might dominate the breakfast show or the afternoon show, the drive show. But be strong wherever you do your advertising. And same with newspaper. If you're, I'm not an advocate for newspapers, but if you're doing little business card sized ads, see if you can step it up a bit. So be noticed, which is the whole point of the advertising. Oh, we've just covered most of that. Advertise at times that will enhance listener response. If you're a mechanic, you want to reach people who've got dodgy cars, advertise when people are in their cars, driving to work and home from work. And say things to them like, there's any rattles in your car? What are you doing right now? So you can speak directly to them at the time when they are noticing they have a need for your product. Everybody is either switched on or switched off for every product at any point in time. I've always been switched off for podiatrists. Always. I've never noticed a podiatrist ad before in my 52 years on this planet until 6 months ago when I got an ingrown toenail. Then I noticed this ad that we're running on the radio for Your Happy Feet Podiatry just down the road in Hardwick Street. And I've been there 3 times in the last 6 months. Before I had the problem, I didn't take any notice of a podiatrist. What is a podiatrist? I wouldn't have a clue what they do. But you switched on or switched off. If you wear glasses, you're probably switched off to glasses ads most of the time, but if you suddenly lose them or break them, suddenly you're going to be noticing every glasses optometrist ad that passes by you. So that's just another one of those aspects of consumer behaviour. Switched on or switched off for everything at some point. We just talked about the second point. I think we talked about most of that. Purchase cycles we talked about. Yep, we have. We've covered all that. I'm getting ahead of myself. Now we come to reach and frequency. All right. Reach is the total number of people that your ad will be heard by. Frequency is the number of times each one of those people will hear the ad. Does that make sense? Have I lost anybody? No? I think of radio advertising a lot like going to the gym. Does anyone go to the gym regularly here? Yeah? Did you notice a result the first day you went to the gym? No. Second day? Probably took a couple of months. Yeah. 2 to 3 weeks? Oh, you must be going harder than I go then. Yeah. You don't get a result when you start exercising straight away. You know you've got to do it. Well, I found out I had to do it. I was on a Zimmer frame for the first 2 months of this year, and then a walking stick later on because I wasn't moving enough, and my back got weak, and I needed to gain some strength. So you've got to do these things. At some point in your life, you'll find that out. But you won't get results instantly. It's something you've got to work at. After 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, the results become greater and greater and greater, but you won't get a result in the first week. And that's another error that a lot of businesses will make, is they'll start their advertising campaign. They might not get the calls they expected in the first week, so they stop. Or they stop after 3 months, and then they come back next year for the same period. But all the hard work has been lost. So it's something you've got to stick at and build when we talk about building a household name. And what we're going to look at now is how an actual campaign builds reach and frequency over time. See that all right? I don't know if you can read the numbers. The blue column is the reach. Okay, this is 20 ads per week we used our stations, 2CA and 2CC. We punch all this information into the survey program with all the audience data on it that we get, and it punches out a reach and frequency campaign for us report. So the blue column is the reach. That's the number of people reached each week, and the orange column is the frequency. How many times on average those people have heard the ad. So in week 1, 34,000 people have heard the ad at least once, but that on average, those 34,000 people have heard it 3.2 times each. As the weeks go by, you can see the audience reach goes up. You're reaching more people each week, and the frequency also goes up. So by the time we get to week 12, we've reached 82,000 people who have heard it on average 16.5 times each. 16.5 times 82,000.
A bigger number than I can do at this time of day. I'm a night person.
I think it's 1 million and something. So the ad's heard over 1 million times over that period. That's how radio advertising works, and that's how your gym membership works as well. It's over time, the results get better and better and better. If you stop at after week 3 or week 4, and you come back next year and start again, you do have to start again, and you haven't become a household name. But if you keep that sort of thing going, that's how you do become a household name. Become it's top of mind awareness. How's our time going?
We're going. Got about 15 minutes.
15. Okay. All right. One of the really simple formulas that works in advertising is share of voice equals share of mind, which equals share of market. That means that when you think about your business around your competitors' businesses, whoever is the loudest, talks most, has the share of voice, does the most advertising, they're going to be the ones that people think of first, the legal share of mind. And people that are thought of first, the businesses that are thought of first, are the businesses that have the market share. Now this is a measurable thing. We do research on this every few years where we'll pick out 20 business categories: hairdressers, mechanics, accountants, lawyers, dress shops, etc. And we will ask 100 people, what's the first business that comes to mind when you need to buy a dress? And we look at the results. And we see that the businesses that do the advertising on either radio or television predominantly are the ones that have the highest share of mind. They're also the ones that have the highest market share. One that really sticks out, Malaganas Edwards Johnson, the law firm in Canberra. They do a lot of radio and TV advertising. They have huge top of mind awareness and they're market leaders. And Bloomers is hot on their heels as well. So it's a formula that is very simple, but it works. Share of voice equals share of mind, which equals share of market. Okay, let's look at return on investment. How do you know if the money that you spend on advertising, this goes for any sort of advertising, is going to get you a return? Well, big companies do they spend a lot of money on this, on this sort of return on investment research and measurement. More money than most businesses could afford to do. This is a study done by Colmar Brunton, which looked at, first slide there, they looked at 21 brands across 18 months using 118 advertising campaigns. And they studied the return on investment. They looked at TV, radio, and online. And what did they find? Radio delivers the strongest return on investment when one media channel is used. So on average, across those 118 campaigns, across those 21 brands, radio delivered a 17% return on investment compared with 14% for online and 13% for TV. When you add two mediums together, radio and online is the strongest two-channel combination they found, delivering an average return on investment 3 times more than TV and online. And they say adding more channels does not always result in a stronger return on investment, except when radio is one of the channels used. So that just gives you some indication of the power of radio, and it's well worth considering in your marketing mix. But how can a small business, like most of ours, get an indication of what their expected return on investment should be or could be? There are a number of ways that we can look at it. It's difficult, but it can be done. John Wanamaker, does anyone know him? Father of modern retail. He invented department stores and all sorts of things. He said, half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half. Now that was not a criticism of advertising. He was the first person to take out a full page ad in a newspaper. He was the first person to put price tags on products in his shop. He came up with so many innovations which seem to us, pretty plain and boring these days. But back in the 1880s, I think, when he was doing this, it was revolutionary. He wasn't criticising all the advertising that he did back in those days, saying half of it's waste, I don't know which half. He was saying, if I didn't spend all the money that I spend on advertising, I wouldn't have a business. It doesn't matter which bits aren't getting results, bits that are worth it. So that was what he was saying. It's often, this quote is often attributed to, mistakenly, to Henry Ford, but it was John Wanamaker that said that. So what can we do? We can look at whether your turnover has increased during this period that you've been advertising compared with the same period last year? Was there a change? Did you have an improved bottom line over that period? Was there an increase in store traffic or an increase to your website results over the time that you're advertising? I remember putting together a campaign for a wholesale florist who'd never advertised anywhere before. He just wholesale to flower shops, but he was getting into the wedding flower business, or side of the business direct to the public. And we did a campaign for him which said, running over summer and saying, are you having an autumn wedding? If so, you don't buy your flowers now until you've looked at this website. And he could see on his web stats, on the days that he was advertising, which was 3 days a week, his website activity skyrocketed. So you can look at 5 minutes. So you can look at those sorts of things. And what's the customer feedback? Are customers telling you that they've heard about you? Are you seeing new types of people in the business? So monitor those sorts of things in the business. See if you can tell if your ad is getting a result. If it's not, it's probably the creative rather than the medium. And the last thing we can look at is we have this return on investment calculator. And I hope I can get through this in the 5 minutes, because it hasn't come up on my screen here, it's up there. You can look at, okay, we won't fill it out, but you can look at what is your conversion rate? What's your average conversion rate? Do you convert 50% of all people that walk into your store, or do you look to convert 80% of people that walk into your store? What's your average ticket? How much? What's the average sale worth? And what's the average margin, or the gross margin on your average sale as a percentage? How many times a year does your average customer frequent your business? And what percentage of your business comes from referrals? And what's your return on investment expectation? That's an important question. Sometimes when we say, what's your return on investment expectation? I say, I want 3 times what I spend. If I'm spending $1,000, I want $3,000 back. And if you can get that, and some people do, a lot of people do, but gee, we'd all be selling widgets and advertising on radio. You don't get that in bank interest or on the stock market. You can go down to the casino and maybe do that. But what is your realistic expectation for return on investment? Is 15% reasonable? That's better than what you get in the bank. 17%, like the average on the Colmer-Brunton study. So be realistic about what your return on investment expectation is. But if you do those sums, we can figure out how many people we need to get into your business to deliver your expectation. So I'm sorry I can't fill it out here, but it does automatically populate all the things when we punch those numbers in. But if anybody wants to do that exercise, happy to do that at another time. But we can give you an indication of how many customers we need to get to your business to make it worthwhile for you. We also have data on a lot of categories on purchase expectation, 2 minutes. Purchase expectation, purchase intentions. So the surveys that are done by GfK, which is the independent radio survey company, ask a lot of lifestyle and commercial questions in the survey, like, do you intend to frequent a bookstore in the next month, a pharmacy in the next month? Do you intend to buy or sell a house or apartment in the next 12 months? Do you intend to buy a car? There are a lot of categories. Green products, which is the solar panels, the double glazing. What's your intention on that? So we know how many people already have existing intentions to buy product in a lot of categories. And if your business wants to have a look at that, we're happy to show you those sorts of figures as well. So we can give you some idea of what a return on investment expectation exists for your business. I think I'm done. Any questions? I'm done. Two minutes is up?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Marshall. Are there any questions from the floor? We do have some roving mics, so just wait for someone to come to you. Thank you.
Thank you. You've gone to the trouble of creating this advertisement, whatever it is, tops and tails and middles or something like that. and invested a little bit of money. Who actually owns the copyright of that at the end?
The business that pays for it. We act as, in our business, we act as a facilitator. We use jingle houses that we have relationships with. They give us very good deals for our clients. They create it, we don't do it in-house, but when it's done, the business owns the material. A normal radio ad, like putting jingles aside, say the True Blue ad with the swampy pool, to give you an idea of costings for those sorts of ads, we charge $90 to write and produce a radio commercial. So that's one thing I forgot to mention in the speech. It's really cheap and affordable.
Are there any other questions from the floor?
I was going to ask Lee, congratulations on getting through without using the term earworm. And also, what's the value in a live read on your stations?
Yeah, 30-second live read. For everyone's benefit, a live read is when the radio announcer reads the commercial himself live during the program. It's not a recorded ad that comes on. The benefit of that is people's attention is focused on what when the announcer's talking. Live read for a 30-second live read is $180. So there's a premium on a normal recorded rate for that.
Do the rates change depending on the time of day or the program that's running?
Okay. Yes and no. So if a business comes to us and says, I want to buy all your breakfast spots, then yes, the rate will be higher. If a business comes to us and says, I'd like an even spread across the day, then the rates are the same. We do what's called a run of station rate, or a target placement rate, or a BMAD. Some businesses want to advertise breakfast, morning, afternoon, drive, and cut out evenings, which you can do. So that's slightly more expensive than a run of station rate, which is 5:30 to midnight. Not much more expensive. But if you are wanting to, really use up all of our high peak time, like the breakfast spot, then there's a premium on that.
Are there any other questions from the floor? Sorry.
I'm right.
No, I had one behind me. Look, Michael, thank you very much. That was very interesting. I never knew there was so much involved with radio advertising.
Oh no, we just play records. That's
I actually listen to music. Look, I'd like to take this opportunity to present you with this gift on behalf, and thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. If people want, are you able to stay behind?
Yeah.
If you have any questions after this, you want to speak to Michael, he will be here after to speak to you. So thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you.